What's going on, Florida State fans? We're getting ready to talk some transfer portal news. Is he or is he not going into the portal? And that would be Florida State's Patrick Payton.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into another episode of Locked On Seminoles. My name is Brian Smith, and I am your host. Thank you very much for making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the awesome Locked On Network, your team every day, and you can get your podcasts right here on YouTube. You can get them wherever you get them for free, but please subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and share this podcast and comment. Feel free to comment in the chat, bring up any kind of questions you have. But the focal point today, just want to go over what little I have, and this is evolving. Patrick Payton allegedly was upset with the battles in Florida State's collective. Reportedly numbers around $1 million. I don't know how many years, if there were any specifics. You know, this isn't like Adam Schefter announcing a contract for a wide receiver for the Bills, and it's for this year, and it's got bonuses. All this stuff is behind the scenes, and it's not public. So it makes it more interesting, but also more frustrating. If you take nothing else from this podcast, understand what I'm trying to do here. Payton has gotten rid of the tweet about maybe going into the portal, blah, blah, blah. I'll check it again here in a few minutes to see if there's any other update. But Patrick Payton is a very, very good player. And Florida State losing Jared Verse, yeah, that's the other thing if you want to take away. Losing Payton would really crush your opportunities next year. You can't lose your two best pass rushers. You can't. As it stands, he's a redshirt sophomore now, so he technically has 2 more years. I would assume Payton would leave after next season being the main guy, no matter what school he's at, preferably Florida State for Noel fans. But again, really good player. 13.5 tackles for loss this year, 42 tackles overall, and he had 6 sacks. And he's battling to get to the quarterback with Jared Verse, with Fisk, etc., Joshua Farmer, a lot of really good football players. So here's what I know, and I'm going to pull up the chat here in just a sec. Here's what I know. If anybody wants to comment, feel free. There are several different schools in this same situation. I spoke to somebody today, and by the way, I'm in a hotel on the road getting ready for state championships in Alabama and in Georgia. There's nothing you can do when you have X amount of dollars to satisfy everybody. This is, in a lot of ways, like NFL free agency. I hate using that frame to kind of paint this picture, but I don't know what else to say. If you have X number of dollars and the players want more than that, chances are somebody's going to leave. I don't know if that's going to be Payton, but still, it's not a good situation. So to that end, just because I just started the show, and by the way, Bless Harris has just announced he's going into the portal, the backup offensive lineman. Good dude. I had him on my show once. Really like him a lot. Wish him the best wherever he goes. But Patrick Payton pulled down the tweet, and now, I mean, he doesn't have anything all that exciting going on here. I mean, it's interesting because will Payton end up a Noel next year if they can't come to some kind of, shall we say, agreement, if you will? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't see anything of note. I'm looking around for more news on him as we go. Because right before the show, after I'd set up the live stream, sure enough, soon as I did, and there, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's deleted his tweet. Even Bud Elliott just talked about a buddy of mine. I don't know what to say because by the time this show's over, something else may have happened. I mean, they could be negotiating right now. Again, this isn't like, here's the cool thing about the NFL. It's very segmented and rigid in a way that usually those words are bad, but you need to have some consistency to know when you're allowed to be a free agent, tampering and all that stuff. College football, it's just herky-jerky. You don't get to know which collective has what. There is no salary cap per se. Some teams just have more than others, and then they have different ideas on which positions, just like the NFL in that regard. who should get more money. But allegedly, he wanted around $1 million, according to what one person said on Twitter. I forget who it was, but I'm like, I would like $1 million too. But let me be very clear. Again, as a buddy of mine was telling me earlier today, he goes, great quote. He goes, unless you are throwing the football, you're not sniffing $1 million in the portal as a DN receiver. It is flat out a quarterback, and he's right. You know, the only way I could see something like that, like Phil Knight, it wouldn't make any difference. The guy at Oregon that runs Nike and all that, Oregon grad, big booster, he could do that, but it sets a trend too. Phil's not dumb. Is that the best way to do business? Is it? Probably not. So that's something else. Yo, what's going on, Mike? It's really wild to me that he would put something up and post it. We tell these kids all the time at camps, at practices, I don't give a crap what it is you do or somebody else did to you or anybody else. Don't hit send. I know everybody in this chat has heard that, and I know everybody in this chat has been around other people, have talked about it. Don't hit send. Don't do it, bro. Don't do it. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up because it drives me nuts that we don't have more consistency with some of these kids that should know better. Even if he's mad, even if he's not, you can't. You just can't do that, man. You just can't do that. And it's really frustrating because he makes it tough on himself. He's going to bring extra attention to Florida State in a bad way. Although, again, it's not intended. It's going to be perceived that way because when it's 50-50, people go negative, like 9 out of 10 times. That's the way it is. So here's something else that I just wanted. This is the only positive for this, for me, that I want to bring up. And anybody can comment however they like on this. This isn't going to be a Florida State issue. And we're talking about Patrick Payton here. But we're talking about something else that's really, really important. What about, you got to segregate your money for this position that, how's your depth chart? Who do you expect to lose? This guy's been banged up a lot. He's good, but will he be healthy? It's complex. Where do you spend your NIL? Every team is different on how they run their offense. Let's use like Norvell's obviously a very good play caller. He's not going to spend his money the same way that, say, Jim Harbaugh would at Michigan. He's more run-based. Not that Norvell doesn't like to run the ball, but he throws it more than Harbaugh does. How they run their defense, the scheme, everything they do. So he's going to allocate the funds differently. But when you have an unexpected case, like let's say he had, whether it's Patrick or somebody else that they figured would be back in 24, then you got to think of, okay, we had all this figured out, but now not only we might lose him, he wants a lot. If we keep him, it's going to pull from other guys. There's no way around it. There's X amount of money you can spend. And the Battle's End's always trying to get more money in their collective, and that's cool. But this is not easy. So what's the problem? It's the amount of money. R.A. Nixon says, damn, just pay. What's the problem? It's not that easy. You got to make sure not only is he being taken care of, if you pay him, what's the standard set? And again, I don't know the specific numbers. It was hinted that it's around $1 million. Well, that brings up several questions. Number one, all at once, at the end of his senior year, installments, is it over 2 years? Does he have to get it as a senior and fifth year? He redshirted, so he could play a fifth year. What's the parameter? I have no idea. So just paying him is not that simple. It's like when you go buy a car, you don't just say, I'm going to buy it, and then you drive off. There's a lot of paperwork involved. Same deal here. All right, what's Mike got to say? That social media is wild and people don't listen. You are 100%. I've sit down in front of elite programs all over the country, talk to kids at Under Armour, Elite 11, talk to guys in the NFL about it. It's insane. It's insane. Just Jefferson, the receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, he was down at Under Armour for the Future 50 event at IMG earlier this year, and I talked to him, and he said flat out, he's like, tell kids don't go because of NIL somewhere. Go somewhere you're going to get developed. And he was freaking adamant. He repeated it and repeated it and repeated it and repeated it. Develop, develop, develop. Kids ain't listening because they got too many idiots around them. There are handlers that want money now that's not deserved to them that try to take advantage of kids. That's the first problem in high school. But Patrick's third year in college. And while he deserves some money, and I have no idea what his situation is, he's got to be careful every single time he looks at that send button. Is this going to haunt me? I don't know. Yeah, maybe it won't, but I don't think it's a very good look for him or Florida State right now. So we'll see how that goes. Ty Fox just posts money signs. Yeah. What are we doing about quarterback for next year? There's all kinds of situations. I was going to get to that. This is something I want to talk about every day, whether it's in the title for the post or whatever. Look, this is simple, man. There's no way around it. Florida State, in my opinion, this is 100% Brian Smith. If Florida State does not get a transfer portal quarterback, this is 7-5, 8-4 team next year, Rodemaker. That's my opinion. I don't think him or Glenn are ready. If they take a massive step forward and prove me wrong, I'll be sitting right here eating crow, happy to do so. That's it. Right now, everybody and their brother wants Cam Ward. Fantastic. Only one school is going to get him. From what I'm hearing about the NIL, I don't think it's going to be Florida State. Oregon, Auburn, they have money out the yin-yang. Miami, I would be very surprised if he ended up at Florida State. He's probably the best guy in the portal, but we'll see. DJU is the other guy Connor mentioned, and I'm not sure why. I don't like that fit, but he's been rumored. I don't know who else. Keep in mind, this is day 3 at the portal. It's a little early. Yeah, Cam Ward to FSU. Right. When I see it, I'll believe it. But you never know. I mean, Omix Supreme says Cam Ward to FSU. I don't know if that's going to happen. Great question here. Tori Sims, are all the players playing in the bowl game? I would imagine a bunch are not. Number one, opt-outs for the NFL. Number two, you have a situation where some guys are going to go to the portal, like Bless Harris just announced, in case you missed it. He's going to the portal. And three, I've heard some kids are pretty ticked off about the situation with not going to the playoff, and they're going to boycott for that. That's a rumor going around. I have no idea what the validity of that is, but it's something to kind of take into account. So please keep that in mind. Also, please keep something else in mind, and that would be the Jace case. Jace Medical. I know that we come into sports and escape from some of this stuff that we have in everyday life, but we can talk a little bit about that in preparing for real life too. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. It's pretty scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if, like my mom or somebody was in a bad situation and they didn't have an opportunity to have the stuff they needed for them, life-saving medication like that they really needed. Thankfully for the Jace Medical, they have something that might be able to help you. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics for skin ailment, for an allergy, etc., that you can use. So visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to prepare for today. Go to jacemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. All right. Again, just to reiterate, I will be shocked if there aren't a lot of opt-outs. Florida State has a lot of NFL-ready guys. They have a lot of seniors. Georgia's going to be in the same situation. And if you take nothing else from this question, other than this, every year for the rest of your life, bowl games are like glorified spring practices. That's it. Unless you're in the Final Four or whatever, or the 12-team playoff, glorified practice. Opt-outs will be insane from now on. Unless there's some kind of special money pool that's not going to happen, that the advertisers are going to get these kids to pay, and they're not going to do it. Why are they going to play? They want to save themselves if they're thinking about the portal, so they're not going to risk injury. And then there's the guys going to the NFL. The kids that need the reps to get better to get there are going to play. It's pretty cut and dry. So it is what it is. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. Insane mob. Florida State wins 10 games next year. I'm curious why you say that, because I'm not real sure about quarterback. If you think you got that much confidence in Tate Rodemaker, you jump on that train. I'm not with you. Finn, Olmec Supreme, I don't know what he's doing. Finn played at Toledo. For those you don't know, he's pretty darn good. He just hasn't played Power 5, so who knows? Daquan Finn, yeah, he's a good player. I don't know where he's going. Well, this is a good question. Von Myers Jr. DJ keeps getting thrown out there for Florida State. I don't know about him. Is he up or down? Yeah, like I'm the same way. I would rather pass, but I don't know what the situation is there. He's not much. He'll run a little bit, but I just don't think he's the fit that Florida State needs. They need a more mobile quarterback than him, in my opinion. Corey Hall, interesting take. We are going to have to take DJ and develop him. I love our quarterback coach, and I think he can do one thing. He can do it. One thing about it, he will keep on the zone read. Yeah, DJ's not terrible at it. He's just not explosive. Once he gets he makes the right read, he's just a big dude. He's a bulldozer. He's not a thoroughbred. How do you feel about what Stephen A. said about Florida State? I don't know what he said. I have no idea. No clue. I'm sure somebody will notify me. I honestly have no clue. I don't really care much for ESPN, so I don't watch it much. Norvell always responds to adversity. He will bounce back, and I almost guarantee 10 wins next year. Insane mob. I mean, it's possible, but again, it just depends on the quarterback. You're not telling me Florida State's winning 10 games, losing a gazillion seniors, and then you're trotting out Tate Rodemaker. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. You got to prove me wrong. I think next year's a rebuilding. Anything brewing that could end up shocking, the transfers leaving or coming, not looking for specifics, but more like worrying signs. It's too early, man. That's Benjamin. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Touche. I'm not sure, but it's day 3. This is the feeling out process. Until we get through this coming weekend trends with the portal, the only thing is there's a bunch of people jumping in it. That's about all I can grab for you out of that. FSU got all 3 pro players that can opt out, but the experts swear we can't compete with Alabama and Georgia. I mean, I think Florida State is one of the more unique teams in college football. Anybody that says they can't compete with Alabama or Georgia is just saying that. That's number one, it's ridiculous. But number 2, Florida State has a very good system, and this is why a coach being around for a while matters. Even some of the portal guys, Jordan Travis in particular, he transferred from Louisville to Florida State. They know the system. Yeah, you throw in Keon, he can play in whatever system. Outside of like the wing T, he's going to be effective anywhere. But Florida State had one guy go down, another guy come in. Like the O-line was banged up all year. They didn't do great, but they managed. That's why they were good. And it's credit to the entire staff for getting ready, too. Dion would be in this situation if he was head coach for the views. Dion is Dion. Next year's schedule, much more difficult. I agree, 7-5, 8-4, unless we get a quarterback. That's Ty Fox. Yeah, I mean, they've got you got to go to Miami. You got to go to Notre Dame. I haven't looked at the whole slate here lately. I forget what it, but like, it's just harder. Florida comes to Tallahassee, but I mean, I don't know if it really matters. They're just not very good, but it's still a very difficult schedule next year. What is the latest on our one safety? Oh, you're talking about Bolden? I'm starting to feel Auburn here for KJ, especially if there's issues with the NIL. And again, I don't have any way to verify that. That'll be one of those on the back end, 6 months after signing day, we learned something. He just had a meeting with KJ had a meeting with Hugh Freeze. I don't know if he's taking more trips, and I don't know when Norvell's in-home is. That stuff's always fluid anyway, so keep that in mind. Corey Hall, what is going to be the confirmative credentials to get into the playoff next year? Because if you don't come with the concrete credentials, you will have 11 SEC teams in the playoffs. I don't know what it's going to be, man. I haven't read up on any of that stuff. To be honest, I don't follow the bylines that much. I am not that guy. R.A. Nixon, don't bring in a quarterback. It's time to develop one before it starts to run other quarterback recruits off. Well, which ones are you running off? That's the question. Here's the thing. Quarterbacks are going to leave no matter what. Let's say they didn't take a quarterback next year or this year, just hypothetically. I would bet 50-50 with anybody, if not higher, give you 2-to-1 odds, that at least one quarterback's going to leave. A.J. Duffy's already in the portal, but at least Rodemaker or Glenn, whichever one didn't win it, would leave. Kids are not going to wait. They're not going to wait. It is what it is. You just got to recruit a great quarterback every year, and if somebody leaves, they leave. If you get a portal guy. That's just where I'm at. All right. Hummus Hero, what a name. FSU got done dirty by the Disney SEC hype machine. Insane mob. That schedule for next year is not that hard. 10 wins. This team is not just quarterback driven. I'm not saying that it's, it's a good team, but if you don't have quarterback play, like they had quarterback play even remotely like they did the last couple of games, they're a 7-5, 8-4 football team. I am 100% convinced of that. How does NIL work? Player contacts TBE with a dollar amount, blah, blah, blah. It depends. There's a lot of variables even to this, and this is from Scott Gaddy. A lot of the collectives are connected to the school in some way, shape, or form, but they don't work with the school. It is the ultimate gray area. Every single one of them is different. And that's why I don't want to go into that further, because it literally is different at every school. Dion would have us 4-8. I don't think Dion's a very good head coach yet. He's trying, but we'll have to see if he can get there. It would be great if the players that could come back would come back, keeping my fingers crossed. That's Tori Sims. Yeah, that's all you can do, man. You don't know. It's too early in the portal season to know yet. I see Payton on. Yeah, I mean, he deleted his tweet. This is J Mac. Look, I don't know if he's going in or out. That's what I started with when I first put up this podcast to be a live stream. He didn't have the post up, whatever, but it changes. Like right after I set the live stream, of course, Patrick Payton deleted his tweet. Whatever. What do you think about Florida State leaving the ACC for the SEC or Big Ten? That's Olmec Supreme. Well, that's their preference, but it's not a matter of if they want to. It's still the grant of rights. This is just all legal stuff. The grant of rights doesn't conclude until 2036, not 26. A big 3-6. And prove me wrong, but that's going to be really hard. So, Wildcat. Benjamin. Yeah, I don't know about all the Wildcat. Let me talk about something else here real quick before I go to the other side. Here's something to think about. Florida State is in day 3 like everybody else. If they can get any kind of positive momentum, a commitment, a transfer portal guy, whatever, to get some momentum, one really good player, especially like a big quarterback or whatever, that can shift it with Patrick Payton, with somebody else, and somebody in the battle's end could also make a major donation, and this changes overnight. This is as fluid as it freaking gets. And to be honest with you, I don't know if there's much you can do about that. It's just wild, man. It really is. And I don't think that's going to change much. But something that you should definitely check out is FanDuel. FanDuel. All right. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That is correct. You heard that right. That's a $150 if your team wins on a money line bet. If you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is also very easy to use. That is also very true. There's a wide range of betting options, including, but not limited to, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. Once again, the portal is fluid because the rules they haven't done a good job. And 2, every school has a different NIL collective that is or isn't connected directly to the school, or some booster. I mean, a former quarterback or offensive lineman heads it up. It's different everywhere. Maybe it's a lawyer at some schools. So how this stuff operates, I'm warning just like everybody else. It is complex, to say the least. All right, what do we got here? Would potential new conferences be willing to help cover GOR costs? What is that's, to be honest, that topic's been brought up a lot. I don't think a lot. I really don't, because why would we give up money for somebody that's going to come in and compete and try to beat us? Because the schools that are trying to go are Miami, Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina. Those are 4 good programs that can recruit at a high level. I don't think, to be honest, the coaches themselves and a lot of people in the programs in the SEC probably don't want this. It's the ADs. They just want the money because they get paid for guaranteed because they got bigger TV contracts. There's going to be a lot of infighting with this. It's a good question, Scott, but to be honest, Scott Gaddy, that's going to be very complex as well. Infighting will happen a lot. Benjamin, when usually would you worry about coaches getting poached? What's your guess for the next assistant to get ahead? Ooh, great question. If Florida State doesn't lose an assistant coach in the offseason, something's wrong. And here's what I mean by that. I don't care what era you talk about. A buddy of mine used to be an expert with this stuff, and I learned directly from him. You're going to lose one pretty much every year regardless, and usually 2 or 3, because the money's gotten so crazy from assistant to coordinator spot. Like $1 million for a coordinator is pretty common. Got to go. Got to go. Quarterback coach obviously is good. I've always thought Odell would go somewhere, but he's going to be a lifer for Florida State. You know, there's certain guys like that, but I don't know which one because they all have different aspirations, and it depends on a lot of times where's my kid at in school. Literally, like I've had conversations with people like that. That's a big deal. I know there's certain coaches that didn't want to be in California because they didn't like the culture or they didn't like the South. So they didn't like the culture. So they would pass on jobs wherever it was. It just fit them. Also a very interesting question, though, but Florida State will lose somebody. It's inevitable. Insane mob. But unless the coaches like Fuller or Norvell hits the portal, I'm still saying 10 wins. Could be.